Hello everyone, and thank you very much for watching. This is me, Mr. P, and in this video of Self-Hosting Lab series, I will show you how you can self-host Obsidian. So let's begin. Obsidian is a note-taking service, as you can see here from a screenshot. It will allow you to add all kinds of notes, text-based notes, mind connection notes, and an extra feature that Obsidian will give you is that allows you to install extensions, plugins that will obviously bring more functionality to Obsidian. And everything sounds great, and you can go and start to use Obsidian for your home lab as it is personal use free. So it's free forever for personal use. Obviously, if you want to use for commercial use, that will be $50 per user per year. All this might sound great and you will start using Obsidian, but there is one thing that I don't like with Obsidian, or just there is one catch with Obsidian, is that if you want to use Obsidian with nothing to pay, Obsidian will run only on one system. If you want to access Obsidian notes on another device where Obsidian client is installed, you need to sync the notes between two devices. And Obsidian provides an extra feature called Obsidian Sync, which is $4 a month. In this video, I'll show you how you can self-host Obsidian and how you can use SyncThing Docker container to sync your notes between your Obsidian server and another device. First of all, we will run Obsidian container. We will set up everything for Obsidian. Then we will run SyncThing container that will do all the syncing. And after, I will show you how everything is working. Please note, this is not a review video. This is not full guide how to use Obsidian. I'm still using Trillium. If you don't know what the Trillium is, I'll leave a link to a description in the description below, just below the like button, to my guide how to set up a Trillium. I like using Trillium. It's very simple, very lightweight, and it's fast. Even if it doesn't have the plugins, I still enjoying Trillium a bit better. For my use cases, Trillium is basically ticks more boxes. It's much more pros than cons compared to Obsidian. So like I said, we're going to set up Obsidian and we're going to use SyncThing to get the notes syncing between devices. As you can see here from a downloads page of SyncThing, you can install SyncThing on pretty much quite a lot of OS and devices. And yes, there is the mobile apps available as well. Let's begin. First of all, we will set up Obsidian Docker container using linuxserver.io Docker compose file that is created for Obsidian. So while we're on this page, by the way, all the links to what you see in this video will be in the description below, so you can feel free to follow this tutorial. First of all, inside the linuxserver.io Obsidian Docker compose page, we're going to click on this icon to copy all this instruction and go into a Portainer. While I'm in Portainer, I will click on stacks, add stack, and give it a name, Obsidian-YT. It needs to be lower cases and no spaces. Next thing, I'm going to right click and choose paste. Do not select paste without the format, because sometimes doing that, the formatting of Docker compose file will go wonky and the Portainer will complain that there's something wrong with your instructions, as the Docker compose file is very picky of indentation. So as you can see, if I just remove indentation here or go all the way to the left, it's complaining that the YAML file syntax is incorrect. So it needs to be always 2, 4, 6, 2 indentations, 2 spaces, 4 spaces, 6 spaces. So let's go over this Docker compose file and start setting up Obsidian. We're going to run service by the name of Obsidian using the official linuxserver.io Docker compose Docker image, the latest version, and the container name will be Obsidian. Security op seccomp unconfined. This allows this the Obsidian container to get a bit more privilege, how it's going to utilize the resources of this container. As you can see, this is optional. I leave this as a default setting. You can remove this if you want to. I'm just going to leave it for this video. PUID and PGID representing the user ID and user group ID. In my case, it needs to be 1000 1000. TZ stands for time zone, and in my case I need to change to Europe, London. And this is right now where we need to configure where Obsidian will store its data. You can choose this to be stored locally, what I mean inside the same virtual machine or LXC container, or just in the same place where the Docker is running, or you can mount an FS share or Samba share into that Docker VM and then move all the data there. For this video purpose, I'm going to store the data for Obsidian in the same location. But in your case, let's say if you mounted, for example, a NAS drive, you can go into a NAS drive and create a folder specifically for Obsidian. Just to simplify this video, I'm going to keep everything inside the local machine. So first thing, I need to navigate into a folder called Docker, and this is where currently only Portainer data is located. I will create another folder which I'm going to call Obsidian, and that's it. This is where Obsidian will store its data. Currently, if I list items inside the directory, I get nothing, which represents that the folder is empty. So everything will go inside this location. I will just type pwd and press enter to print out the current working directory. I'm just going to copy all this link. I can retype it, but I'm a bit lazy, so instead I'm just going to copy and paste, and I will do like that. And this is what right now I'm instructing Docker Compose file to do, and I'm saying that this container, which will run Obsidian, the config files inside the config directory inside the container should be mapped into this location on the host. Ports 3000 and 3001. These ports required for the containers to fully function. If the port 3000 or 3000 is one already used for something else, you can change the numbers here on the left to something that is free. For example, in your case, maybe 3123 is empty and 3121 is empty. So you can do like that as long as the ports are empty or not being used. The ports on the right, you need to leave them as it is, as this is how the container will function internally, exposing the port to outside. Devices, this is where you can mount, for example, external drive, passing that external drive as USB device into this container. I will not do that, so I'm just going to select all that and comment those lines out. And then how much we're using SHM size, 1 GB is fine, and restart unless stopped, which means that if I restart this virtual machine, Obsidian Docker container will automatically start. Everything looks okay to me, so I'm just gonna go all the way down and press deploy the stack. So right now Docker checks if the container image exists. If it doesn't, it will go and pull the Docker container image, will extract the Docker container image, will run the container, will get everything set up, initial setup process done, and when everything is completed, I should be able to see that the stack is being deployed and the container is running. So we'll give a couple of seconds or so for this to finish, and I'll be back when everything is running. Once Portainer completes stack deployment, it goes back to a stack list, and right now I can see Obsidian-YT showing up here. If I click on that, it will give me a list of all the containers that is running inside the stack. In this case, it's only one container, which is Obsidian. Current state is running. If I click on this icon just below the quick actions, if I click on this icon, I will be able to see the Docker container log file output. I can see currently is still doing some bits. There's a couple of errors here showing up, which is just going to create if a file is not been found. Looks like everything is okay. Okay, we can go and try to start this container. So let's go back to stacks, Obsidian. And right now I can scroll all the way to the right and click on the port 3000. If I click on that, it automatically opens the no VNC entry into Obsidian. This is how you can access Obsidian, let's say server plus client, if you self-host via Docker container. This opens via port 3000 and my container IP address automatically being picked up by Portainer. If yours doesn't, you need to go back inside a Portainer, scroll all the way to on the left hand side, all the way next to environment related, click on that, click on environments, select the environment that is showing here. In your case, most likely it's going to be local. You click on that. This is where you can change the name, and this is where you need to provide the IP address for the Docker instant. This is how it automatically populates the IP address. If you haven't done that, in your case, you will see 0000 semicolon 3000. So right now I'm inside the initial setup process page for Obsidian, and I have a couple options here. I can create a new vault. I can open folder as vault or open vault from Obsidian Sync. The last option is going to be the one that I mentioned, which is $4 a month. So if I click on here, as you can see, this is if I'm using Obsidian Sync, I will pick up the last one. Create open vault folders of vault. I don't have any notes taken by any other Obsidian instance, so my only option is create. If I click on that, it's asking me what kind of vault name I want to provide. So let's call this vault, for example, Galaxy, like my cluster. And this is where do I want to store this. If I click on a browse, it will open a page which is like a file folder structure of the Docker container. If I click all the way at the home, as you can see, it gives me the config. Config folder is the one folder which is, let me quickly show it to you, just to make it very clear what it is showing content of this. So currently if it's showing content on this and we can see SSL, that means if I'll go to my SSH client and list, I do see SSL created. So before this folder was empty, but now it's SSL folder created, which means is the volume mapping is fully functioning. So in this page, I can go and say create a new folder and call vaults. Create. So this is being created, and I'll open this one. So right now I'm telling the Obsidian that I want to create a new vault with the name Galaxy, and its location will be /config/vaults. Click create. If I press create, it's doing a bunch of stuff. And right now, if I'll go back inside the SSH client and list the content, I do have the new directory called vaults. And if I change directory to vaults and list that, I do see Galaxy. And this is my vault that's just created. First thing what we need to do is click on the cog and look for the option under appearance to say I want to see the dark mode. That's it. So this is the Obsidian. So right now we can go and start using this. First thing what we're going to do, straight away create a new note, and we're going to call this subscribe, and please click like, smiley face, and that's it. This note is automatically being saved. So right now I do have two notes. One it says welcome, one it says subscribed. If I go back inside this SSH client and navigate inside Galaxy, I do have two files, subscribe.md and welcome.md. If I create here a directory, let's say my notes, and move that in here, that's done. I'll go back inside this, I'll list the directory. I do have a directory called my notes and welcome.md. That's it. We have Obsidian running. Now let's go and start setting up the syncing between the Obsidian of this instance and this Linux machine. First of all, what we need to do, we need to set up SyncThing. I will navigate to this page, which is a Linux server.io SyncThing Docker Compose instructions. I will click on this. I will go back inside Portainer and I will say, okay, I want to run a new stack, and this we're going to call this SyncThing. You can combine two Docker Compose files into one, but I'm showing you that you can use separate, as the SyncThing is very powerful syncing service that you will definitely use for other devices to sync. You might want to sync like I did in a couple of videos back, where I was syncing MP3 files from my server to my car Android head unit. If you want to see that video, I'll leave a link in the description below for you to go and check it out. So let's paste this Docker Compose instructions into a Portainer web editor, and let's go over all these lines and setting up this SyncThing instant. So we're going to create service with the name SyncThing. We're going to use Linux server SyncThing latest Docker container image. We will name this container sync. Hostname SyncThing. You can change this to something you want. I will name this SyncThing-YT to stand out in my network. Same situation here as was with the Obsidian. We're going to use user ID 1000 and user group ID 1000. I need to change my local time zone Europe/London. This is volumes. The first line is where the SyncThing will store its config files. This is what we need to set up first. So let's go back inside here, navigate a couple of folders back, one more, and we'll be back inside a directory called Docker. Now I'll create a directory called SyncThing, and we navigate into this directory and print working directory for me to copy and paste. So copy that. So first line, I'm instructing this container that SyncThing container needs to store all this data, or will store all this data in this folder, which is going to be mapped into this location. So that means that if I'll restart the container, the information stored inside config folder will stay, as it's called, persistent volume inside the Docker. And if you will not map this, there is a chance you're going to lose data. Next, we have data 1 and data 2. What's all this about? This is just showing you that you can have more than one location where you want to store. You can have data 3, data 4, 5, data 2000. You can have unlimited amount of directories mapped. For this case, for this video, we're just going to use one, and I will name this Obsidian. I'd actually suggest to put Obsidian lowercase. It's going to be easier for you to track it, because you will struggle to find this directory inside the syncthing. I'll explain to you a bit more in a second. And where do I want this to be mapped on the host side? On the host side, I want this to be mapped to location where the vaults are located. So in this case, what do you want to sync? For example, if I go to Obsidian, I have my folder vaults. So I have directory called vaults, and I have my directory where I'm storing one vault. Do you want to sync all of them or just one? If you want to sync all of them, you need to direct the sync thing to this location. But if you want to sync more than one or just one, you need to direct to this. I think in this case I'm just gonna sync probably all of them. So what we're gonna do is, actually no, let's sync one. It's gonna be easier for you to understand why what we're doing. So we're gonna change directory to Galaxy, and I will print that directory. So I'm telling the system, this is what I want to sync. I want to sync this directory, which will be synced via a name called Obsidian inside the sync thing. So inside the sync thing, I will see Obsidian, which will represent all this. Sync thing runs on a port 8384, and these ports requires, the rest of the ports requires for all the sync thing to happen. I suggest to leave them as default, the last 3. But the first one, 8384, if it's already been used, you can change to something else. For example, 8374. I'll leave as this as my Docker instant is. There is a free port 8384 and it's not being used, so I'm happy to leave like this and restart unless stopped. Again, same as with Obsidian, the Docker will keep the container running even after Docker VM restarts, because we're instructing as unless I stopped it manually. Everything looks okay. I will scroll down and press deploy the stack. This will take much quicker than Obsidian. Obsidian took about a minute and a half. With a sync thing, that should be much faster. Still, I'll give a couple of seconds or so for this to finish, and I'll be back when everything is running. And here we are. Right now we have 2 stacks running inside this Docker VM. We have Obsidian and we have sync thing. I'll click on a sync thing, and I can see that I have one container with the option running. If I click on this icon again, same as I did on Obsidian, I can see that everything is running. If I see this line at the last line at the bottom, it means everything looks okay. So let's go back to stacks, sync thing. And right now, if I scroll all the way to the right, I will choose port 8384. When you're accessing sync thing for the very first time, you will get a bunch of tables that you need to agree. First of all, are you allowing anonymous users to be reported? It's up to you. Next thing is telling me that it's danger. I need to create a user and a password. I'm going to click on settings, click on a GNU, and then I will put Mr. P and then password. You can choose the theme if you want to. I'll leave a dark, or make sure that dark is always forced to be, and click save. As soon as you enter the password, it will log you out and ask you to log in. So I'm just going to enter the credentials and click login. Yeah, say that. So here we go. We have sync thing set up. By default, sync thing creates one folder, which is this default folder. I'm just going to click on the folder, click edit, and remove this, as we don't want that to show up here. That's it. We have sync thing here running. Next, I need to have sync thing running inside this Linux machine. So I'm going to click on the icon, go into software, and what we're going to do, we're going to download the sync thing client for the Linux. Inside Software Manager, I will search for sync thing, and let's look what we have here. What I will choose is this one. I'm going to choose this to be installed, and I'll click install. Sync thing can be installed on the Windows, on the mobile devices, on the Raspberry Pi, on any Linux OS, so you can have a bunch of stuff happening between. I even installed sync thing, like I said, inside my Android head unit in a car to sync the MP3 files. And here we are. We have a sync thing installed, so I'm just going to click launch. And once this sync thing starts, it should open up the localhost /8384 port, and it opens a similar dashboard what we saw inside the sync thing server. With this instant here, what is telling me is to do a similar thing what we did on the server, is I need to agree, do I want to send data or not. You can actually go to this link and find out more what they are doing with the data that you're sending anonymously. I'm going to click yes and click on a settings to provide user and a password. So we'll create a user and a password. Make sure it is always dark mode and click save. And again, I've been asked to log in and click save and save here. Same, we have a default folder which we're going to remove right now as we don't need that. So that's been removed. So right now I do have syncthing inside the server, syncthing-yt, and syncthing inside the Linux machine, which I'm using for record these videos. How they're going to talk to each other? If I click on a server syncthing, I can expose its connection. So if I click on this and click on action and show ID, for this demo, for this video purpose, I'm okay to show you this QR code and ID number. But if you're setting this up for your own use, do not show this QR code to anyone or this long string of numbers and letters to anyone, as they can use this to basically keep spamming you to accept the connections. And I'll show in a second what that is. So if you, for example, installing syncthing on the phone camera will allow you to scan this QR code and make a connection automatically. In my case, I need to copy this all long line, go into a syncthing that runs inside the virtual machine, inside, sorry, recording VM, and then click on the add remote device here at the bottom right hand corner, paste this in and provide the name. So I'm going to call this syncthing YouTube demo, click save. So right now the recording VM Linux machine sending a request to this server and saying, hey, recording VM with this long string ID number located at this location wants to connect. Are you okay? I'm going to say yes, I am. And I do recognize this name, or actually it's fine by me. Let's just make this capital and click save. So right now both machines, my virtual machine running Docker with the container syncthing connected to this Linux machine, and as you can see, they're both connected. Next, we can go and start syncing the Obsidian folder, which I actually turned off for some reason. So let's go back and bring that back up. So come back here. Here we go. Obsidian is back. So right now I'm going to go inside the syncthing-yt, which is my syncthing container that runs inside this VM for Docker. I will click on add the folder and I will call this Obsidian. And in here I will delete everything and put /o. And that should bring me into Obsidian. I don't want to manage password. Obsidian. It's just complaining about this. Let me close that and let's try again. Linux is just doing its things. So I'm gonna delete this. I'm gonna call yes. Let's close that. It's auto detection Obsidian. Let's do manually. I need to punch in the name here, as I gave this to syncthing, which is gonna be, click on this, click on this, click on this, this name. I need to provide this name. So all this you can actually copy from here if you want to. Go in a server and paste that in and put the slash that is telling you that you're about to send everything. And I will call this Obsidian and press save. That's it. We have a folder created that we want to sync. Next, I want to create a location where I want this to be synced to inside this Linux machine. I will go inside the home directory, create a new directory, and we'll call this Obsidian. All the vaults I want to show up here. Currently, as you can see, nothing is showing up here. Back to a browser, back to a syncthing server. Click on the directory I just created, click on edit, click on a sharing, and now I'm going to tell that I want to share or sync this folder to this remote device. Click save. Once I've done that, I click on the recording VM. I get a notification saying syncthing YouTube demo client wants to share a folder by the name Obsidian with this unique ID. Add new folder. I'm going to say yes. And on my side, I just need to delete this. Did I give it a capital letter? No. Yeah, Obsidian. Okay, that's fine. So we're going to call this Obsidian like it was before. and Obsidian is fine. I'll click save. That's it. Everything is saved, and straight away files and folders being synced to my Linux machine. It's just very small files. It's already been synced. So right now, as you can see, I have my notes folder directory and a welcome directory. If I go back inside Obsidian and let's say create a new folder, say magic, like that. So I have 1, 2, 3 units of 3 different files folders. I click on here, in a matter of seconds or so, boom, I have a magic showing up here. So SyncThing is syncing Obsidian vaults. Next, I'll go back inside software and I'll search for Obsidian. You can install Obsidian on Windows, on the Linux, on the Mac, on Android devices, and I'm going to install this on the Linux Mint machine. I'm going to click install, agree to install extra packages, provide my root password, and right now software manager will install Obsidian for me. Once Obsidian is installed, I can click launch and Obsidian will start running on the side this Linux machine. And we get the same window as we had when we were running a Docker container for Obsidian. Now we have the same options. We can choose to sync by Obsidian sync. We can create a new folder, but we already have a folder created which we're syncing into this Linux machine. So in my case, I will open folder as Vault, click open, or select open, click on a home, click on Obsidian, and this is where the folders are, or this is where the vault is located. I'm just going to click open and everything is fine. Let's minimize this. As you can see, I have my 3 nodes showing up here as it was here. So on the left hand side, this is a server. On the right hand side, this is Linux software. So inside Linux software, I click on this. I'm going to say this is magic. As you can see, it's changing on the fly on the left hand side, and when this is saved and is pushed to the server, it will change on this side. So I'm going to close this. Here you go, this is magic changed. If I go and say I want to delete this, I right click and choose delete. Do not ask me again. No, that's fine. Click delete. I still can see magic note showing up on the left hand side, but behind the scenes, SyncThing doing all the synchronization between my Linux machine and the server. And there you go, magic disappeared. So we have Obsidian running as a Docker container, and we have SyncThing running as a Docker container, which making all this synchronization happens free of charge. Before I go, I want to show you a couple of things. First of all, if you go inside the any SyncThing, any Obsidian, that could be just a software in your Windows or software on the Linux, on a Mac, or even a phone. If you go in the settings, and on the left hand side, you will see core plugins. This is where you will see a list of core plugins that you can choose from, or you can choose community plugins. If you open community plugins for the very first time, just have a quick read about community plugins and how to report, for example, bugs if you found in any plugins. I'm going to click turn on community plugins and choose browse. At the time of recording, there is 1,944 plugins, and there is a lot of them. For example, let's pick one that I quite find it useful, and it is going to be Excalibur. If I click on this, I'm going to say install. So right now it's installing the plugin, and if I click enable, it will enable the plugin and it starts running. So let's close the introduction window and close that and close that. So right now on the left hand side, I have option here. It's called create new drawing. If I click on this, a new page shows up, which I can go and start making a sketches. So let's say I want to draw a circle. I want to write something here like that, for example. I don't know, I'm going to say arrow goes this way, etc. So the note, as you can see, is created a new folder, and this is where Excalibur keeping all the notes. By the way, you can run Excalibur in the dark mode. The thing right now, what I want to point out is that if you go into the Obsidian notes on side your machine, whatever machine you synced, and if you will try to open the same note, it gives you a bunch of text, but not the drawing. And the reason why is that the plugins are not getting synced. If you want to view this note on another device, you need to follow the same thing. You need to go inside the settings, community plugins, switch that on, browse, and then install the same plugin on another end. This is how you will be able to view that note. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to see the note as the plugin is not being installed. But right now, install the plugin. Obsidian realized that a plugin installed that will read these files, and here we go. I have a message showing up here. That's it. This is Obsidian, how to self-host Obsidian, and the SYNCTHING service that allows you to synchronize notes between multiple devices, and everything is running inside the Docker VM as a containers. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you found this video useful. If you did, if this video helped you, please consider subscribing or just click like button. If you have any questions about this video, any other videos that I've done before about Proxmox and a home lab, just leave a comment below. I'll read every single comment and I'll reply to you as soon as I can. And anyway, thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and like always, I see you in the next one. Goodbye.